welcome back to Innovate Africa. As you know by now, I'm Kieno, and the one thing I'm going to say before I introduce you to our next guest is that I've got an opportunity for you, a potential opportunity for a business with scale at the end of that interview. I'll tell you more about that. But first, let's get down to business. Patrick Rogers is a venture capital lawyer. He wanted to bring the value that VC lawyers bring to the industry in general, and he wanted to make sure that it's more affordable, but as efficient. How do you go about doing that? Well, I caught up with him recently, and he spoke to me about his business that he's the co-founder of and the CEO. He spoke to me about Clara. Let's take a listen. Hey, welcome back to Innovate Africa. I'm Kieno Kammies, and a lot of people say, you know what? Go and start your own business. Become an entrepreneur. You'll have your own freedom. You'll make your own money. You won't have a boss. You'll have your own independence. Well, it's a bit like freedom, isn't it? But anyway, yes, of course, you can get all of those, but it comes with a lot of work. The other thing they don't tell you about is what happens when you become successful, when people want to invest hundreds of thousands of dollars into your business. What happens when another company wants to purchase part of your business and they happen to be offshore? How do you structure all of these things? This, of course, is where the legal side of things come into play. You get venture capital lawyers and all of those sort of things. And it becomes very complicated very quickly. But I'm going to introduce you to a bit of technology which actually makes that whole process a lot easier and a lot more affordable. So I'll introduce you to Patrick Rogers, the CEO and co-founder of Clara. Patrick, absolute pleasure hosting you today. Let's talk a little bit about Clara and what business are you actually in?
We are in the business of business admin and drastically reducing the time and cost of getting that kind of stuff done. We've started with the legal use case. I'm a former venture capital lawyer. I've worked with companies all over the world, helping them restructure and raise capital. And we knew the deep inefficiencies of our clients in terms of the time and cost they were spending on legal stuff. And we just could not stop thinking there has to be a better way to do this. And why are we using human advisors to do all this stuff that we saw as commoditized? And that was the genesis of Clara's journey. We thought we could infuse a software product with our expertise in the legal domain and allow non-lawyers to do a lot of this stuff self-sufficiently while keeping them organized, compliant, and giving them back a lot of time.
I've got to ask about the name, Patrick. Clara, a legal tech company called Clara. How did you actually get to that particular name? Just take us along the journey that led you there.
Yeah, it is significant for us. Look, law or legal is a trust game, right? There's a lot of trust that you have to put in a software product if you're giving it a lot of confidential information, and that runs the gamut of stuff. And for early stage business owners, when they're engaging with a lawyer, it's not only expensive and time consuming, but you're divulging a lot of secret information. And what we found over the years was that in our historical space, which is the tech space, for better or worse, most founders are male still. And what we found, though, as lawyers is that the gents are more forthcoming with uncomfortable information with women, yeah? The women lawyers. So we wanted to again, build the trust dynamic with end users. We wanted to personify the platform. So we wanted to give it a name. And then we thought, okay, well, let's give it a female name. And then it was because we were very early stage and didn't have a lot of money, then it got more tactical. Okay, let's do a 2-syllable name that is memorable and connotes a lot of the ideas that we're trying to portray. Transparency, clarity, things like this, right? And then could we afford the .co? Because obviously we didn't own it yet. So we went through a long list of female names, only the 2-syllable ones. And we got down to a short list, and Clara was on the short list, and then we did some further research and realized that in two countries around the world, the first female lawyer, the first woman lawyer in those countries was named Clara. I think it was New Zealand and the US. So that signaled to us that we were probably onto something, and then we were able to buy the domain, and we're off to the races.
So I'm not going to delve into all the technology, what it does, etc. I think I'm more interested, and I think a lot of people watching this are more interested to find out how the technology that you use actually solves for your client.
So if I can talk about some of the things that our technology does,
Yes.
I think that might answer your question. So if you think of Clara as a company OS, a company operating system,
Right.
It needs to do a number of things. It can't just be a siloed product like company formation or cap table management. It needs to do a range of things, and that's what it does. So on Clara, you can incorporate companies in a range of jurisdictions, mostly jurisdictions that are common law and that are primarily used for raising capital, whether venture, private equity, whatever it is. So
Right.
Delaware, of course, but other jurisdictions like the Cayman Islands or Singapore, Abu Dhabi Global Market in the UAE, the Dubai International Financial Center. And we're adding a few more as we go. So you can start, if you think about the journey at company formation, which is imperative. You can't run a business if you don't have a company. Then you need to manage your shareholders or equity holders. Our cap table management tool allows you to track all the equity allocations in your company, but also model out future fundraising scenarios. If you're the founder of the business, you're very interested in how much dilution you're going to suffer if you raise more capital at certain terms, right? Our tooling allows you to do that. You also need to create a bunch of legal agreements, whether it's between your founders agreeing to certain things, whether it's assigning intellectual property to the company so that the humans don't own the IP, the company does. If you want to incentivize your team and you can't afford their salaries, you're probably going to have to give them equity themselves in the form of options. You can create your employee stock option plan on Clara and start distributing equity to team members. And guess what? When you do that, your cap table is automatically updating, because founders are bad at math and there's a lot of error when you involve human inputs, right? So we take a lot of that away. It's the importance of this OS concept. All the features are integrated and talk to each other, which drastically cuts down on human error.
Let's hop into the birth of Clara, and I'm also keen to find out more about where you actually operate predominantly.
As a company, we were born in Dubai. Our founding team are a group of former venture capital lawyers, such as myself, as well as some top-tier technologists who came together to solve this problem. We put Clara through Techstars in 2019 in the Dubai program, and that was kind of the birth of the idea, and we saw from there some initial great traction, and we thought, okay, we're going to do this. Now, because of the fact that we were born in Dubai, and we had a natural kind of power base there because we'd been advising a lot of Middle East-based startups and supporting their VCs on the legal side, it was very easy for us to capture markets like Saudi, Egypt, the UAE quite quickly. So, we're still early in our journey, and that's primarily where our customer base is. But we're an interesting business because you need to differentiate between where our customers operate and where their holding company is for purposes of raising venture. And because we were born in emerging markets and have a very strong understanding of how emerging market businesses operate, in almost every case where they're raising capital, at a minimum, they have a dual company structure. So they'd have two companies in the stack. So the jurisdictions I mentioned earlier, their fundraising vehicles, let's say, sit on top of the structure, and that's where we focus our energy as a product, despite the fact that our customers operate everywhere. So we could have customers that come to us to form a Delaware C Corp in Brazil, South Africa, and Indonesia. And they're using all our document automation as well. And they're using our cap table. But they're in completely different parts of the world. And that's just fine.
The show is called Innovate Africa. So outline for me how you see Clara benefiting, impacting businesses on the African continent.
Look, if you're a founder of a business, primarily if it needs to be backed by outside capital, you've got to do a lot of sophisticated stuff on the legal side that you don't have to do if you're opening a restaurant in Cape Town. You have no choice because your investors are going to force you to do all this stuff, spend all this extra money, everything else. So we're a must-have product. We're not a nice-to-have. You have to do the stuff that you can do on Clara. You can choose to pay a lawyer $500 an hour, or you can use our software to primarily do it yourself on a best practice basis. So the more cost-conscious our end customer is, the better the market for us. Right? So whether you're in Nigeria, Egypt, South Africa, Kenya, if you are in that use case where you need to do this stuff, we're your best solution. And because we were born in the Middle East, we had a natural customer capture into Egypt, right? If you're in Dubai, you think that your market typically is the MENA region, Middle East, North Africa, yeah? And obviously Arabic-speaking population and all of that. So we were super strong in Egypt right out of the gate. I used to advise a lot of Egyptian-based startups on their venture rounds. So we kind of used our personal brands to push Clara as a corporate brand, and that was quite easy to get customer capture. Plus, we have no competitors. So it's not like, oh, you should use Clara instead of this. It's like, no, we're the only, right? You can go use a law firm, or you can use Clara. So that was quite easy to capture, say, Egypt, and that's been foundational to our learnings across much of the continent. So we see, for example, a lot of similarities in the struggles that Egyptian founders have, that the Nigerian founders have, because of massive currency fluctuations and things like this, cost-conscious founders. So we haven't really spent any marketing dollars in trying to penetrate the continent. We have no offices on the continent. But we've been seeing just a natural organic growth because founders talk to founders. And again, they have to do this stuff. They have no choice. They don't want to in many cases, but they have to. So they're always looking for what's the best way to do it, what's the cheapest way to do it, what's the fastest way to do it. And it turns out we sit right in the middle of that triangle.
So you are a VC lawyer, you hooked up with some techies, as you've said, and you created Clara, right? But just having a look at your demeanor, you're very cool, calm, collected about it. Has the journey been that easy, though, as your demeanor would suggest?
I think you can guess at the answer to that. So there's been a lot of inefficiency in getting from idea to where we are now, right? But we're still we're just getting going, right? We're really excited about where we are. We've got more than 5,000 businesses around the world using the product, but we're scratching the surface. And not only from a growth perspective, but also from a product perspective. We are incredibly passionate about what we're doing. This is a mission-driven company. We're solving a real problem that's important. We're not trying to be the next e-commerce platform to sell something. We see this as a piece of digital infrastructure, which is going to become part of the standard software stack for any business around the world. So when you're going, Clara is in the same breath as Slack or Google, because we are doing stuff that you have to do. We're just giving you a way to do it that's never been done before, and it also happens to be cheaper, better, and faster. So to get to this point, there's been a ton of learning, a lot of inefficiencies in getting to where we are right now. One of the reasons for that is because we can't look at anyone to copycat them. We can look at elements of what we do in different countries, but we're thinking about the problem very differently.
As you've just alluded to, starting something like a Clara, or anything else for that matter, is no walk in the park, right? So what are some of the key lessons that you've taken away and that you continually take away with you when it comes to launching and running this business?
We had a bit of an unfair advantage on this because we had massive visibility before we started Clara, because we'd advised hundreds of startups around the world. So we saw how hard these people are working, how much they're struggling, how tough it is to raise money, all the various factors that can throw themselves into your journey to disrupt your perfect vision of the future. And, like so many people smarter than me have said, so much of it comes back to grit, your fundamental belief that what you're doing will work, and the corollary to that, which is you don't know what the journey is going to look like to get there, but you don't stop believing in the ultimate vision. And that vision cannot just be monetary success. The vision has to be, I'm building something that matters and is delivering value to my customer base, and I'm really excited about that, and I'm willing to run through any damn brick wall to do there. And there's going to be a lot of brick walls to actually make that vision a success. And for us, that's the most important point, right? Never losing focus on our picture of success as a company, and just understanding it is not going to be a walk in the park. And when I interview people in the final interview when they're going to join our company, that's the key message I deliver. You are in a place where our objectives matter. Everyone feels very strongly that this is not a job, that they're doing something important with their life and contributing to the success of this company. We're all in this together, but it is not going to be easy. You're going to be asked to do a lot of things you haven't done before, and you got to be bought into this being a challenging journey where you're going to learn a ton, you're going to make great friends, your sense of job satisfaction and fulfillment is going to be off the charts. It's going to be tough.
Unless you've actually walked the journey, a lot of people still don't understand why VCs insist that you register a holding company in another jurisdiction. Can you explain that to be like a 12-year-old?
So investors are not comfortable just with the words said on a page in a legal agreement. In fact, that's been signed. They need to know historical precedent around how long it would take to enforce their investor rights, how corrupted the court systems are, whether they have a snowball's chance in hell of actually enforcing their rights and what the outcomes of that would be. Because these are high velocity investors, they've got short time horizons for their investment, trying to get in and out in 6 to 10 years. So if you say, well, in Nigeria, it's going to take you 5 years to enforce your rights, like, well, of course I'm not going to bother. Well, and then obviously the next step is, well, of course I'm never going to invest directly into Nigeria. We have to structure around that. So we're going to put if this is your company in Nigeria, your opco, or your operating company as we call it, we're going to put a topco, or a top company on top of your opco, and we're going to stitch them together, right? So we're going to have the owners of the opco in Nigeria sell their shares to this new topco, so that the topco 100% controls the subsidiary, the board of directors, making all decisions on behalf of the global business sits up here, the shareholders agreement is up here, and if I need to enforce my rights as an investor, I enforce it in the topco jurisdiction. By the way, all the IP might be up here too, to answer your earlier question.
And all the money invested.
And all the money invested, bank account, everything else from up there. And the team, if they're getting options in the business, they get options in topco. So opco has a sole shareholder, topco.
Another name that gets bandied about is Mauritius. A lot of people suggesting that it's a great idea to go to Mauritius, put your holding company in Mauritius. But is it all it's cut out to be? I have a sneaky suspicion a lot of people like going there because of the beaches.
Yeah, happy to talk about Mauritius. So in the menu of options out there that business owners or investors look at when they're thinking about where to domicile my topco or my investment vehicle, or even to set up a private equity firm might be looking to set up a special purpose investment vehicle. So it's essentially a shell, but they're using the jurisdiction for structuring investments in a sophisticated way. Is Mauritius a good idea? Historically, yes, it's been very popular. A lot of that was driven not only off free trade agreements and double taxation agreements with countries throughout Africa, but also India. Mauritius was the place to go. And it's fallen out of favor in recent years because I think it's become a bit more unwieldy. It is now looking very expensive compared to other options out there. In most cases, you're forced to appoint resident directors. So you have to appoint board members to this company who are resident on island, who you might never meet, who are going to involve themselves in the day-to-day business decisions of your underlying business, which, surprise, surprise, people don't like. So there are better options out there. And I think a big part of our job as a platform is to educate business owners, to educate investors on the variety of options that they have out there if they want to set up a topco or an SPV for investment purposes in different locations.
So which jurisdictions should one consider based on where you're operating from?
It's horses for courses. It is often a decision that's driven by your investor base, but these are why our chosen jurisdictions that we focus on are what they are. So in Latin America, it's Cayman. In East Asia, it's Singapore. In the Middle East, it's a mix between Cayman and Abu Dhabi Global Market, ADGM. In the US, it's obviously Delaware. Most of Africa is still Delaware C Corp, topco, policy-wise. But it's horses for courses, but there are a small handful of places that are user-friendly, that have investor trust, where the annual compliance burden is low, and in some cases, these are tax-neutral jurisdictions. So you're always going to be paying tax in your home jurisdiction or wherever the company is resident. We think you shouldn't be doubly taxed. Yeah. So you don't, in theory, you shouldn't have to set up this topco as a second entity in the structure, but if you're operating in an emerging market, you will. So why deal with double taxation issues if you don't have to? And a jurisdiction like Cayman, as an example, Singapore, maybe to a lesser extent, are very friendly in that sense.
The one story that fascinates me is the Irish story. What they've managed to do in 20 years has been absolutely phenomenal. They turned around an economy. They have some of the biggest tech companies sitting in cities like Dublin, for example. I've just come back from there. So it's a phenomenal place, and I believe a phenomenal opportunity for African entrepreneurs. What's your take on Ireland?
I think Ireland is a great option. And as an example, our go-to-market revolves around channel partnerships. And one of those verticals is accelerators and venture builders. So we work with the likes of Techstars, 500, Plug and Play, Antler. And we see a lot of our customers who kind of operate from Europe ending up using Ireland for their topco jurisdiction for the reasons I mentioned. So everything can be signed and submitted digitally. It's low cost, it's quick. Investors are very comfortable. They can enforce their investor rights through the Irish courts. So yeah, and it's cheap. So yeah, we do see it as a good option. And I think eventually we'll add Ireland to our list of jurisdictions on the platform.
South Africa is also an integral part of the African continent. I mean, it's the reason why you're here. What's your take on South Africa and the opportunities that actually exist here?
It's amazing. I mean, I've only been in Cape Town on this trip, but South Africa, there's so much happening here. There's so much potential. I spend a lot of time in emerging markets, and I learn my lessons in terms of not believing what you see on CNN or BBC, right? You always got to go into the place, spend time with the locals to get a sense of it and what is actually happening here. I think what's happening here, again, I'll specify in Cape Town because this is where I've been spending the last few weeks, is amazing. There's so much energy here. Everyone has been so helpful, kind, and welcoming, I think, in line with traditional opinions of South African hospitality. But the caliber of the people that I've been meeting here is incredible. South Africans and the foreigners who have either moved here or in the process of moving here. There's some amazing businesses that are being built here. There's a strong and growing investor community that, I know people are frustrated by the level of investment here, how organized capital is, but you can see that it's in that process of going to the next phase, which I think is really exciting. I think Cape Town in particular as a platform to build and co-create and ideate is an amazing one. I mean, the quality of life here is off the charts. The city is beautiful, the weather's great, the food is amazing, the nature. What a place to build and grow a company. And I've been down here meeting with a number of future channel partners of ours, whether accelerators or incubators or law firms, and really excited about how we could be supporting customers in this part of the world.
Patrick, finally, you might have smaller businesses, and I mean small as in people have just started their businesses. Maybe they're a year or two in, and they're listening to this whole discussion around Clara, and they're thinking, oh, it's too expensive for me. What do you say to them?
In your example, let's say you are an early stage company that needs to be venture backed in order to execute on your business plan. Going back to what I said earlier, you will have no choice but to do the stuff that our platform offers. So it's not a matter of, am I going to do this or not? You're either going to pay an expensive law firm to do this, or you're going to go to Dr. Google and screw everything up and cause yourself a lot of pain and strife down the line, and a lot more expense, by the way, when you have to restructure and get sophisticated tax advice. Or you can come on to Clara, where you see the brands that are attaching to us and partnering with us, strong global brands, whether on law firm or investment side, saying, guys, this is a best practice tool. This is going to guide you through this journey like nothing could possibly do. And by the way, we're going to insist that you're on this thing anyway. And come through us so we can get you a channel partner discount.
An absolutely fabulous catch up with Patrick Rogers there. Really enjoyed that. And it's amazing how someone with the length and depth of experience that he has managed to take that experience to more people at a much better price point. And that really is what innovation is about. And you potentially could benefit from that. Now, before I introduced you to Patrick, I did mention there's an opportunity for you. Well, Innovate Africa, the show, has partnered with Innovation City Cape Town. Very briefly, Innovation City Cape Town is a business outcomes hub. It's 3,700 square meters based in gardens where they bring together big corporates, innovative business, and funders. They network these amazing businesses to drive and accelerate innovation, but also drive business outcomes, business bottom lines. And there's an opportunity for you to take advantage of their business speed dating event, which takes place on November the 7th. If you're keen, if you think that you qualify to be part of it, all you have to do is go to www.innovationcity.co.za/business-speed-dating/ and find out more about it. Maybe register, and who knows, I'll see you there. But the one thing I definitely know is that I'll see you at the next Innovate Africa. Have a good day.